If there are certain non-negotiables you have in your life,
Yeah.
build around those. Debt will impact your ability to invest.
Mm.
It's something that you just have to tackle and get a good hold on before you can really think about investing. If I've maximized how much is coming in, I now need to optimize how much is leaving. And to me, there's two major buckets. And I think the first bucket that I want to talk through is the must-have.
Hey, Alex, how you doing?
Hey, James, doing fantastic. How you doing?
You ready to talk stocks and more?
Yeah, and let's really lean into that and more.
Okay.
Today.
Tell me about what we're going to dive into today.
So today we want to cover one of the biggest questions that we get all the time, and that is, how do I get more money to invest?
Yeah, that's fair. I'm right there with everyone because since I've started taking a very active approach to investing, it's been great, and so far it's been rewarding. I've only had to go through a few pits of hell, going through pullbacks and corrections and seeing some red, but most of it so far has been very positive. So
That's
I'm
great.
excited about that. But with that, now I've got this bug and, excitement to figure out how much more can I invest? How do I add more from my budget to help contribute to that? Because, it's one thing if you have a 30% gain, but you have $10, it's like
This size.
yeah, so there's an aspect of it, and that's all positive, but it is a timely subject for me even to say, okay, how do I maximize and continue to grow my investments so that compounds? So excited about that subject.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple of things that I want to talk through today and really focus on optimizing budget and thinking through the inputs and outputs of what that looks like.
Yeah, that's fair. So this one's got to be I would just add a little bit different than not necessarily just hearing about your feedback and advice about some of the stock market specifics. Because in reality, there's probably 10 different ways you can create a budget, 10 different ways you can achieve a goal, but maybe just sharing some of the life lessons or principles or things that helped you do those very things to maximize your budget.
That's right.
So first off, thinking about a new investor, right? They've hopefully seen some of our previous videos. If not, I encourage them to go back where, especially season 1, we talk about the investor mindset.
Yes.
Having that right perspective, attitude, and understanding of the market so you can have the right expectation, but also be prepared for everything that comes with investing.
Yeah, and I think the investor mindset is a great series of videos for people to listen to and watch through, because when I have my mind right and I know the value that can come with investing, we're going to pick up from there as like, okay, I'm ready to invest, so how do I unlock more money to allow me to invest?
Right. And one of those episodes we talk about is creating a budget, right?
Yes.
So you have everything you need to exist and live, your living expenses, and then carving out a portion of your income to reserve for savings for emergencies, but also specifically for investing towards your retirement or for generating wealth for your family and beyond.
Yes.
So we want to dive into that a little bit. Maybe just for a quick recap, what do you recommend as far as a high-level structure for a budget?
So I recommend a 70-20-10 budget. Okay. And I think that this is a budget that can work in the real world.
Yeah.
As inflation keeps going up, 70% of your money allocated to those must-haves, 20% allocated to investing, which includes your 401k or other investing accounts like an HSA, and then 10% being your emergency fund and like where your fund money kind of lives there.
Okay. And that's kind of the target goal budget. So then you have plenty to invest in emergencies and those things.
That's right.
But maybe starting with somebody who isn't there. They live paycheck to paycheck. They have no money to save, no money to invest. This is the starting point. So now it's 100% 0-0. So maybe as a case study, we'll start there because, not everyone has that affordability
That's right.
or structure to be able to do that. But I think there's a path, even in my own experience, to adjust, to make changes, to grow, to eventually maybe you go from 90% living expenses, 5% savings, emergency fund, 5% investing, all the while working towards making adjustments and improvements to get to that 70-20-10. Is that fair?
That's right. And I think the first bucket that I want to talk about is the income
Okay.
bucket. And so the question you have to ask yourself is, am I doing what I can to maximize my income? Because if I can increase the amount of money that I'm making, this naturally starts fixing a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And again, this is all easier said than done.
Sure.
But it's the first question you need to ask yourself. Am I maximizing my income?
Talking about your own experience, what have been some of the ways you have grown through your career and from being young to where you are now? Not that you're not young. How have you maximized your income?
I think first off, it's just discipline, which we've talked about
Yeah.
and have videos as well on the discipline it takes to get things done. But one thing that you can own is your own career development and path that you take from a career perspective. And you also own your attitude you bring to the workplace and the amount of effort you're putting in at work.
Yeah.
Those are my big takeaways of the ways you navigate your career. If I'm trying to make more money, you're naturally going to do better. You're going to get bigger raises and more opportunities if you work hard and people want to work with you and you have a good attitude. And that's the question you have to ask yourself. Am I doing those things right now?
I like your point that you're talking about of taking ownership,
Yes.
because sometimes it's easy to blame other people, other scenarios, other factors on why we're not succeeding, right? But even in my own career and in my own experience, when you take ownership for things, a few things happen. One, you see your effort and your work differently. And, ideally in again, I'm kind of normalizing against, we're not talking about a toxic environment. We're not talking about being taken advantage of. These are just kind of in the normal course of employer-employee relationship. You're hired to do a thing, and you guys both agreed to the compensation. You've agreed to the terms, and so you're there. What do you do with that now? Do you do your best? Do you try your best? Do you look for new opportunities to learn, take new responsibilities, all the while of having work-life balance? But you become the employee you would want if you were an employer, which provides more opportunity. Has that been your experience as well?
I think so. And it's really easy to be like, I've done all those things and not gotten rewarded. And you know what? You're probably right.
Yeah.
Everyone gets passed up on
Right.
for opportunities. Everyone has chances that they wish they would have taken, or they feel like they weren't properly rewarded. But how do you react to that?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're focusing on here is you can control that. And if you have a good attitude and you continue to have strong effort, I know over a long period of time, you will have more success than people that do not have that.
That's fair.
That's something you can take home. You can point the finger as much as you want, but that's the main thing that you can really control. And that will have a positive impact on the amount of income you're able to bring in.
Yeah, and I've found like sometimes it doesn't happen at the place you've been hired or started from. Because often you have this, oh, James is just this guy.
Yes.
So we haven't really expanded our view of what he can be or become. Not everyone gives you that opportunity or has that insight. But often, thankfully, at least in a general sense, with the freedoms we all enjoy today, you can leverage your experience and skill set to go somewhere else.
That's right.
Right? To either a better company or a different opportunity that can grow beyond what you have where you are. So your first point is maximize your income.
And we've talked mostly about the career and corporate route.
Right.
There's other options of, are there ways for me to create passive income or additional income on the side with some sort of side gig.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be DoorDash or Uber or something like that. Those are
Right.
just examples. That doesn't have to be the case.
Yeah.
But are there other things that I have, other skills that I have that I can use to then generate income as well? And that's up to you to kind of figure out what those are. But those are just examples of ways I can increase my income that just give me more money to have available to then spend.
Would you look at education as part of that potential process?
I believe so, especially if you're like, okay, I am not in the career field that I want to be in.
Yeah.
Or the career field I chose maybe doesn't have the upside that I thought, or AI is impacting my industry and I need to pivot. That's where education could come into play and allows me to give me an opportunity. So it's almost an investment in yourself from there.
Yeah, and that's a good thought and point, because I really feel like this whole discussion is not only the investing in the market, is in part investing into yourself and your finances and your future.
Yes,
So it's all related to that, not only with maximizing your income,
that's right.
but investing into yourself. All right, so one angle is to help get to the budget you want is taking a look at yourself, your career, your ability to generate income, and trying to maximize it, increase it by things like side hustles or secondary jobs, maximizing your time, working hard, working towards promotions and things like that.
Yeah.
It's super hard to encapsulate every opportunity, so I just want to preface that for our audience, but I'd love to hear what they also have, in the sense of how have they maximized their income? How have they grown that career change, things like that, to increase from wherever they are now to something better?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. All right. So we have maximize your income. What other thoughts do you have as ways to be able to move towards the budget you want?
So if I have thought through my income
Yeah.
and I'm taking the steps I need to do the best I can to
Right.
maximize that, the other side of the equation is how much money is leaving. So if I've maximized how much is coming in, I now need to optimize how much is leaving. And to me, there's two major buckets. And I think the first bucket that I want to talk through is the must-have piece of the equation.
Must have meaning, so we're talking about your expenses, your
Yes.
living expenses. Say you get paid $1,000 a month, I'm just picking a flat number. 70% of that would be $700, and then 10% for emergency fund, which would be the $100, and then $200 for investing. That's what we're working towards.
That's what we're working towards. Yeah. So this bucket is going to be the largest bucket that
Yeah.
that we want to talk about.
So your $700 for that 70% portion, which likely what includes rent, utilities, bills. Is that what you mean?
Rent, utilities, bills, your mortgage, anything that you owe money on.
How do you determine if something is a must-have or discretionary?
And this is a really important step. The must-haves are things that are bills that you owe on a recurring basis. So you must pay these. You know, if not, our friends at the Fed or something will come knocking on your door.
Right.
That's how you kind of start thinking about, these are things that I know are in my life that I will be owing, regardless of if I actually want them to happen. I have to have these things. So my house, my car, any of the regular utilities that I pay, the food, my insurance, those core things are what goes in that must-have bucket.
Yeah, and similarly, your rent, your transportation, because you may not have a house, you may not have a car, but how are you getting to and from places? Where are you living? So you're, those kinds of things.
Yes.
Would you put food in there?
Yes, I think I mentioned food, didn't I?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I bring up food is, at least for me, food can be a must-have and a nice-to-have on, the budget for food.
I think it's a great call out.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is to dive into some of these big buckets and just talk through what are some ways you can optimize this.
Okay.
And I think the biggest one in most people's lives is their rent or their mortgage.
Okay.
Like this is where the biggest amount of money is coming from.
Sure.
So it's kind of also one of the most important buckets to kind of have a hold on because so much is coming out from that.
Right. So, and that can fluctuate wildly, of course, whether you live in, deluxe apartment in the sky
Yes.
or are living in a closet, or a small place. And then, of course, the location and then where you are in the world and all those kinds of things. So, how have you maximized that aspect of your must-have, and or how do you recommend people thinking about it?
And I think this is also another key thing before we get too much further is if there are certain non-negotiables you have in your life,
Yeah,
build around those.
right.
And like for me, I've always liked living in an area that I enjoy to be in. Like I don't want to just be stuck living in a spot because it's super cheap
Yeah,
and I'm saving a lot of money in it.
right.
It's really important to me that I'm very comfortable with where I'm living and how I'm living in that area. So for me, I try to find the best deal for my money, but I'm willing to pay a little bit more in this area of my spend to make sure it's somewhere that I really want to be.
Right, because you could theoretically move to some very unpopulated, uninhabited, unhappening place and get a super cheap rent,
Yes.
but then that could create other issues too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously there's some common sense of what you're willing to reduce when it comes to your mortgage and rent, but there are factors, especially if I'm in an apartment, you don't have to be living in the fanciest apartment complex of where it's at. You don't need to be sucked in to pay extra money for amenities at the apartment complex you don't use. So these are the kind of questions you can ask yourself is, knowing that I have all the baseline things covered, I'm in the area that I want to be, in general, there are multiple different either homes or apartments that I can afford that are within my range. What is the right number to come to? And if I am living above my means, with my rent and my mortgage being too high, this could be an area that I could evaluate to save some money.
Yeah, and it's a very personal experience given everything you said, but the bottom line is there any optimizations you're willing to sacrifice towards a bigger goal?
That's right.
Right.
And knowing that this is probably the biggest amount of your spend.
Right.
So a adjustment here can have lots of benefits on other areas of where your budget is allocated.
Yeah, that's fair because if you're living in the best place, the closest place you want to be, you may be paying a premium. You're willing to sacrifice 15-minute commute or something, can make a world of difference.
That's right.
Okay, so you have that big expense, optimizing that. And I would just encourage people to start where you are. What small changes can you make towards that?
That's right.
Maybe you bring in a roommate or, things that you can control like that.
That's right. So the next bucket that I want to talk about is the car.
Okay.
And
transportation.
yes, so most people have a car.
Right.
You might be lucky enough that you don't need it. You live in a downtown and you can walk everywhere. And that's even better. If you don't have a car, it's great.
Right. Yeah, they're depreciating assets, meaning the moment you buy them, they don't gain in value, they lose value.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be spending much money here if I can optimize that, because why do I want to put money towards something that is losing value? So the equation isn't there. So what is the right balance then for a car? If I'm a single person, if I have a small family, if I have a large family, the type of car I choose matters a lot and has to fit those needs. So taking all and stripping all of that away, what is the right quality of the car?
Yep.
If I have a really expensive car that's so unnecessary for my lifestyle, it might have a really large payment that I'm making, and that's just money down the drain. Where I could be getting a similar car that may not be as nice in quality, but does what I need it to do at a much lower payment that makes it much more acceptable to my lifestyle, that then opens up money. I think car payments are one of the scariest things that people spend a lot of money on. And what's even more crazy, there really is no such thing as a 3-year car loan anywhere. Now it's 4 years. There's even 7-year car loans. So I'm paying a car off that is losing value for 7 years. It's a lot of money wasted. And this is another area where I think this one might be easier to move than me changing my location of where I'm living or buying. This is a more liquid asset that I could actually make a change in.
Yeah, and I'm going to pick on myself for a second here, as you mentioned cars.
Yeah.
Because in my experience, a car was, especially early, a car was not just about transportation. transportation and getting me to and fro, it was partially I wanted to look cool, or
Yeah.
I wanted, my girlfriend to like me more, or somebody to think I'm, better than I am, or what are those things that you kind of put some of your identity into, right? So I wanted a cool car. I didn't just want the hand-me-down from my parents' old sedan or something. I wanted a cool sporty car. But if you're really trying to scrutinize your budget, you really have to ask those hard questions, like, why do you need that twin turbo coupe, whatever,
That's
using
right.
as an example, versus something more economical and affordable just to get you from here to there?
Yes.
And sometimes those questions are painful to process through.
Yeah, and we've all been there.
Yeah.
And the car companies are so good at selling you
Yeah.
on you need that new model with that new function that looks amazing. And again, if a car is a non-negotiable for you,
Yeah.
you're like, I really enjoy cars.
Yep.
They bring value to my life. I want to spend a lot of money on a car.
Yeah.
Again, that's fine.
Right.
But just know what you're giving up because of that. And now you have to build around that.
Right.
So again, we're flexible in where you want to spend your money in these buckets, but just knowing what every dollar you put into one part goes away from somewhere else.
Yeah. So you just have to be really conscientious about the decisions you're making with your money. That's
Yes.
like the starting point.
That's right.
Right. So you're living, your home, rent, your transportation expenses, often those are big categories in
Yes.
people's budgets. What else?
The other ones to talk through just really quick are like utilities
Yeah.
and insurance.
Yeah.
And really what the ways to optimize these are you shopping around
Yeah.
with the companies, specifically with insurance? You are not going to get the same quote from each company.
Right.
And there's pros and cons to each company, but you would be shocked at the types of insurance for your car and your home and the savings you can have by just shopping around and making sure you're doing the right research. You don't want to just trust people that they're giving you the best deal. Really shopping around. And insurance has been something that has not been really talked about by the price increases that have happened since the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up heavy double digits.
Right.
And I swear you never hear this talked about. So I bet your insurance is up a ton versus what it used to be. So this is growing expense. How do I get it under control?
Yeah, and insurance, what I've felt in my own personal experience, it's similar to like utilities, to where if you don't bother them, or like call them to task or challenge them on pricing, they'll just raise the prices on you. And there is a benefit where companies spend money to get new customers. So they'll be willing to give you a deal if you come over to them, right?
That's right.
And that works across the board, whether it's your cellular service or any of these industries that are battling for your money,
Yes.
right? So they'll give you better deals. And insurance is one of those. Is if you often don't challenge that after a couple years, you may be paying more of a premium than if you went and tried to find new insurance. I've found that myself, whether it's the cable company, the phone company, insurance providers. Now, that's not my industry. That's just my own personal experience. So I don't necessarily speak as an expert. But your point is taken. Like, be scrutinizing the costs you have and be aware of how they compare to other comparable products in the market.
Yes, and also the scale at which you're paying for.
Yeah.
Meaning that you brought up a mobile phone. Do you need the biggest, best data plan in the world
Yes.
that gives you whatever?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
if you do, you do.
No, I know.
But those costs add up.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to trade you up on all of these things.
Right.
It really comes down to research.
Yeah.
So on the stuff that I have to have,
Yeah.
but I get to pick how I'm allocating it.
Yeah.
If I'm doing the right research, I want to get a good deal on wherever I'm spending right there.
And one small area that, I mean, just on the mobile phone, not only the package issue, but also the phone issue. Like, I mean, I've been spoiled, or I've spoiled myself by needing, every few years to have an iPhone. But I had a friend recently that went the totally opposite approach, and he went with the prepay phone even though it's still a smartphone, it's got a screen, it's got the apps, it just, the screen brightness wasn't as good, some of these things. But he was paying a huge discount to what I was paying, and he still got the majority of the functionality. And it just woke me up to being like, wow, I've been probably overspending here without having that kind of order of magnitude improvement on the experience.
And that's the key thing.
Yeah.
And that's the big message from all the spending is where you're spending your money, it needs to bring an equal amount of happiness back in certain areas. Granted, I'm not going to be that happy paying my rent, right? But in these other features of, if I want that cool phone, that's fine. But just know that I'm spending a lot of money on that cool phone. Right. So that cool phone better be returning value back to me, or guess what? Let's cut it out. Let's take that money and allocate it somewhere else that will actually get good value back.
All right, so key principle here is being very aware and conscientious about the money you're spending on your must-haves and making sure it's optimized, and or you've consciously made a decision that's specifically of value to you that you're willing to pay for.
That's right.
And as long as you're there, then you're just like, okay, I need to live here. My family's here. This is a non-negotiable. I know it's an expensive place in the world, but I'm not able to change it, or I don't want to change it. That's just the reality.
And then we'll build
right
around that. And so we mentioned food. I want to talk about food in the nice to have.
Okay, so we're now moving from must-haves to nice-to-haves.
That's right.
Because obviously you could buy ramen or beans and rice or something super cheap and have food and be able to survive.
Yes, that's
but we're not just talking about that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now we're in the nice to have bucket. And we'll talk about another bucket that we haven't actually teased yet.
Yeah.
But right now, talking nice to have. And again, these are expenses that are leaving the door that I don't need to survive and must pay in my life.
Right.
And we'll start with food. And the immediate answer is you have to have food.
Right.
It's like, yes, you do. You have to have food. But the type of food is what I want to dial into.
And or where you get it from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's one thing if I like my fast food. It's another thing if I DoorDash my fast food. So not only am I buying the fast food, which I probably don't need and I can get cheaper and make myself, I'm also paying somebody to bring it to me.
Right.
That is a perfect example of a nice to have bucket. The other angle with food is the type of food that I'm buying. Am I shopping at a Whole Foods? Am I shopping at fancy Erewhon's or any niche natural grocers? Or am I going to Walmart or one of the cheaper options? Those are ways that you can easily cut bill spending of the types of food. And now I'm a proponent of high quality nutrition and food. So for me, I enjoy spending more in this area. But again, I'm budgeting in that I'm willing to pay more, and it's going to take away money from somewhere else. So that's my thinking when it comes to food.
But even with that, because I know you're focused on health and fitness, so you're talking whole foods, natural foods, things not super processed, important to you. Those are all great values, which may sometimes be a little bit more expensive than other options.
Yes.
But that's a decision you're making.
That's right.
But still, even within that, there's opportunistic buying, waiting for things being on sale, and having a strategy to buy maybe a little bit more in bulk when that you can. There's different grocery stores, and then there's the even grocery stores and cooking for yourself versus always going out to eat and having somebody else prep and cook, knowing that there's a service charge for that.
Yes, and that's a big thing for my life is meal prep. So I'm actually not going out to eat that much.
Yeah.
And this takes a lot of work.
Right.
And do I want to sit around and cook all day? Right. I definitely don't. But I've chosen that this is the way that I'm going to go about saving money is meal prepping, and that way I'm also controlling what kind of what I'm eating. So fast food is a huge spend area for a lot of people. And again, if it's something you really want and you don't want to give it up, that's fine. But just know that you are spending a lot of money in this area, and that you don't need to have this. So it's important that people make that connection.
Yeah, and I found connecting it back to what we're talking about is trying to adjust your budget to give more breadth and room for you to have funds to invest.
That's right.
So what I've found is I've worked through this process. It takes many waves and passes of the assessment. It's like, well, I don't want to give that up. All right, well, all the things I was willing to give up only gave me a 5% increase of investment money. Well, shoot, I want to allocate more. Well, I got to take another pass and start really cutting deeper.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I gave up one Starbucks run a month. How about giving up one Starbucks run a week? Like some of these adjustments. So I just encourage the listeners that this is not easy, especially if it is something that you want, not that you need, but something that you want. Sometimes it takes a few looks to really make those tough decisions.
And again, the nice to have bucket are generally things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
So if you do enjoy these things, do not cut it out. I don't want you to cut it out. I think it's fantastic that everybody needs to enjoy it. If you have a bunch of money and you don't enjoy your life, what's the point? So there's lots of reason to be doing things intentionally that you know are nice to have that you enjoy. So we're just throwing out examples of ways to dial that back.
Right.
So the next one that I want to talk about is subscription services.
Oh.
Because I think this is very common. And it's super irritating being a customer nowadays because I need to have Peacock, and I need to have Paramount Plus, and I need to have Hulu, and I need to have Disney Plus, I need to have Netflix. I need to have all of these now. And these add up quickly. And you can add a couple of $100 to your monthly budget purely through subscriptions. So doing a scrub here on, do I need all these? Are there like family plans or ways for me to partner and share the bill that would then bring this down? Because these are ones that I guarantee somebody out there or most people are paying for one that they barely use. I have been guilty of this myself of like, do I really need that? And then in my mind, like, well, there's this show there that I like, and that's how they keep you.
Yeah.
So it comes back to the value equation. Is it really giving me that much value having that, or can I skip that show and just save the money from there?
Yeah, I had a friend that really turned me on to a strategy that I thought was brilliant. Because in the end, if you have too much, you can't watch it all at the same time anyways, right? And so you're paying for the option to. What he adjusted was, I'm just picking one for a period. So he dropped all of them except one and said, my entertainment during this period is going to be focused on the content in this streaming service that I enjoy. I'll consume it at my pace. And then when I'm finished with that, I'll unsubscribe. And that's the beauty of the market change, where it's no longer beholden to these deep, long-term commitments. Consume it, enjoy it, complete it, unsubscribe, move to the next one.
Yeah, there you go.
That was how he handled it to help optimize his cost while still enjoying it.
That's right.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so subscription services, food, delivery. What other areas do you see some overspend or challenges?
I think two other big buckets for people are shopping and travel. And these are probably two buckets where the spending can get pretty outrageous really quickly, but also people get really passionate about it. First, let's talk through travel. And when everybody wants to take vacations, the one vacation to me could be a different type of vacation to you. You may want to travel internationally. I might want to just drive 2 hours away, and that's what's considered my vacation.
Yeah.
The difference in cost of those types of vacations is dramatic.
Right.
And so if I am traveling a lot, do I need to be doing that? And then as I'm traveling, what are the ways that I'm traveling? Am I flying first class or am I flying economy? Am I booking my tickets out far enough that I'm not paying an overprice because I forgot to book things?
Right.
So again, if I really love flying first class, amazing. I mean, good for you that you can do that. That's an awesome experience. But that's expensive to do that. So if I know that I want to travel only first class, I need to build that into my budget.
Yeah.
So it comes back to the value equation when it comes to travel. If travel is a huge area that you really enjoy with you and your family, be sure to build that in.
Yeah.
But you need to account for it.
Right.
It can't be an unexpected, oh, guess what? We're going to Disney.
Yeah.
And you drop $3,000
Right.
out of nowhere. You have to get ready to build that in
Yeah.
from there.
And again, it's not that you're trying to punish yourself or your family, or we're trying to punish you. Is you're making these changes and adjustments for the goal of investing back into yourself
Yeah.
for a longer approach by wealth building and investing as one angle. But
Yeah.
this principle works for whatever you want to grow in or
That's right.
contribute to. All right, so we have the must-haves. We have taking a hard look and scrutinizing your nice-to-haves.
Yes.
All of those, though, are, as you said, easier said than done.
Yes.
It's not easy. How many of times have we wanted to spend less, give in to peer pressure, or not being able to say no to ourselves, or,
Yeah.
all of those things. We've had a bad day, so we'll go out to eat and, just make bad decisions out of convenience, or I'm tired, I don't want to drive, so I'll just pay $15 to have someone delivered.
Yeah.
I get it. What are the things you've learned, kind of principle or core habits, skill sets that help you overcome and go beyond some of these challenges to actually succeed in this area?
It's really building good habits. That's what it comes down to. It's like if you start a new workout routine and
Yeah.
you're really sore the first week, and then you do
Yeah.
it for 6 months and you're like, I don't get sore at all anymore. It's just what I do. If there are certain things in your life that you start changing, initially when you make the change, it's going
Yeah.
to feel way more painful
Right.
than it is. Because your mind's going to tell you, I missed that.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? We used to enjoy that.
Right.
So really, it's just building good habits and allowing the habits to take over. And that usually takes a couple of weeks of changing these behaviors
Yeah.
for them to start sticking. Then you can get over the psychological barrier of cutting these things out, and you'll start quickly realizing what you did value and you don't value.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, I don't even really miss that. I can't believe that I used to do that. Or there's certain things like, you know what? I actually enjoyed that more than I thought. I need to make sure that I budget that in because I didn't realize how much I really valued that.
I think I heard somewhere there's a little proverb or something. Too much honey even makes a bear sick. And the thought I've found is like, if I'm over focused on comfort and or pleasure, it diminishes the comfort and the pleasure. And sometimes a little bit of withholding, a little bit of distance, a little bit of balance actually makes the pleasure more pleasurable.
There's a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the second thing is, it's a little bit of my story. I graduated high school. I went into the service, got the GI college fund, and then that helped pay for my college. But that experience was definitely transformational because it helped reinforce the purpose and the value of discipline and structure, accountability, and to your point, building good habits. And that's one great thing that the military helped put into my life. It's like using boot camp as an example. People go there, they join the military, and they're in the training program, boot camp, for quite a few months. It's pretty structured. You wake up certain time,
Yeah.
you focus on fitness, you eat, you learn, you go back, you go to bed. Like, there's not a lot of fluff. But like you would expect, a few months later, everyone usually comes out as a better version than they went in.
Yeah.
They're fitter, all of those things. And I guess my point is imposing some of those positive actions and reinforced over time to the point of building a habit helps bring those benefits.
Yeah.
But sometimes having external structure helps that, or accountability. For instance, you want to work out, you want to get in shape. Obviously, I have not done as well as you have in that example, but using that as an example, maybe it is difficult for you to be consistent. One thing I've found in areas where I want consistency and I'm struggling, I bring help into it. And I'm willing to, hey, would you be willing to work out with me 2 days a week? We meet at the gym at 3 p.m., work out from 3 to 4. We could spot each other, talk, hang out, work out together. That's the goal. And that kind of built-in accountability is helpful for me because in the moments I don't feel like it, I would still go because I know you're waiting for me.
That's right.
And so I've just learned in some of those core things that I'm trying to be better in, but I don't quite have the habit yet, is to implement external structure or accountability to help hold me to it, to then get me enough momentum that even when you're not there working out because maybe you're sick or you're traveling, now I'm like ready and I'm wanting and I've tasted the benefit of it and it's got the train going.
Yeah, I really like that. And I'd be curious on people's thoughts of what do they think they need more structure?
Yeah.
And or like of the buckets we've talked about, which one do they need to work on most?
Yeah.
Because everybody has a chance to reevaluate this. And it's really nice to hear that it's not like everybody's unique. Everybody deals with these kind of things. You
Yeah.
really have to make your choices.
I'm pulling it back to our discussion about the budget. So we got your must-haves and taking a hard look at that and making sure you're aware of not necessarily every cent, but your vision and purpose and rationale and why you have what you have versus something else that
Yes.
could be more affordable. And then on the nice to haves, are your nice to haves purposely chosen and rationalized and accepted for? So maybe, let me use an example. We haven't covered clothes. We all need clothes, but then there's a nice to have aspect of clothes. Do you need the designer, trendy, fashionable things so you can be or look? Or do you need functional respect, whatever? Like
Right.
there's a value there too, where I know when I was in high school, I was pressuring my parents I needed this brand, I needed this versus just whatever shirt. It needed to have this logo because I wanted to be more accepted or more liked by a group or, felt like this is what it required, which I think is a fallacy, right? And so, which isn't necessarily wrong, but just be aware if that's a value for you, recognizing it, calling it out, and building around it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And so quickly, I want to touch on, there's actually two more buckets that I want to talk through. The final bucket of the emergency fund, I think is really important, is once all of these are under control, I want to build up an emergency fund really before I think about investing.
Yeah.
And, 1 month is a great way to start. 3 months plus, maybe 3 months to 6 months is ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on your situation. But you want to build up a savings so that when something unexpected happens, you're ready to cover that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the pieces that I want to make sure that we cover. Before I really think about investing, I also want to have a little savings that is ready to go.
So questions for you with that, because I think the emergency fund is self-explanatory in the sense that we want to be able to have money, resources available if an emergency happens.
Yes.
Could be anything. Is there a strategy, do you think that because I've heard some recommendations like you need 3 months of your living expenses as your emergency fund or 6 months, or if you're like self-employed, you might want a year, or, there's different ways you could assign that. But that may take time to build up.
Yeah.
If you rein in your living expenses, now you have those two buckets of investing and emergency fund. Do you simultaneously do both? Do you prioritize one? Do you do 90 to one, 10 to the other? What's your thought there?
Ideally, you're doing both at the same time. And that savings account lives in a high yield savings account. So that money is actually still working for you while it's sitting there in your emergency. So it's kind of investing in a different way, just not actually invested. It's just earning interest.
Right.
But then we do want to simultaneously be building a investing account as well.
All right. So that's making sure you're prioritizing your emergency fund. What's the other piece?
So one of the biggest things is debt. And there's all kinds of different debt that's out there. If I have a mortgage, that's a significant debt.
Mm-hmm.
I've got credit card debt. If I bought a car, I'm paying that off. I have student loan debt. There's all these different types of debt.
Mm-hmm.
But the key thing here is they're not all created equal.
Right.
They could vary in different amounts of money that I owe, but they're also going to be varying in the amount of interest that I owe. And that's really the big thing that I want to tackle is when I go about when should I start investing, I really want people to pay off high APR debt before you start investing. Anything in the high single digits or double digits specifically, that needs to be paid off first. So if I've only been making minimum credit card payments and I've got 20% plus interest accruing, you know how hard that is to grow 20% and count on it in the investing market? That's a pretty big challenge. It's much safer to get that really high interest debt paid off first before I consider investing. Because basically, if I'm making money over here, but I'm getting dragged down from my debt, that's not the equation that we want people to be under.
Yeah. And the core principle there is why you wouldn't do it is you're spending more to keep the debt than you're making in
That's
the
exactly
investment.
it.
Right.
Yes. So credit card debt for sure. If it's expensive, it needs to be paid off first.
Right.
But in general, I would prefer people to have all credit card debt paid off before you would ever think about investing. Because again, I'm making money in investing. I'm losing money in the credit. It's kind of silly to be doing that.
Right.
So that's my approach with the credit debt. Student loan debt is a big challenge. And there's a lot of people that have been waiting for the government to kind of come back through and pay it off for them. And there's lots of debate on when this will happen or how that will really happen. But regardless, you owe the money as we speak now.
Yeah.
So if I'm ignoring it and the money keeps going up and up, that's a lot of money that's dragging me down as well from an investing perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is all great. And I would just encourage our listeners that it's an iterative approach. You start small. You may not be able to tackle all your debt in 1 month, but add $50 to it. And that effort is a success and it's a win. Celebrate it. And it builds momentum because now you're like, boom, I just put 50 extra bucks. That's something to feel good about. And then next month you might put $60. And the next month you're going to have it paid off or whatever. And you just keep on keeping on. And then on the budget stuff, it's like, that takes a lot of effort. And for me, it takes multiple passes because you're not going to see everything. You're not going to be able to challenge yourself on everything. But as long as you keep working, keep looking, keep optimizing, failing fast, you might have a bad day, you might get discouraged, but wake up, morning is new, start again and keep on because inevitably you will get there if you keep that consistently in progress.
Yeah, I think that's great. And when we think about what the takeaway is and what the message is for debt, it's really debt will impact your ability to invest. It's something that you just have to tackle and get a good hold on before you can really think about investing. Investing is a beautiful thing, but all having your budget lined up and everything we've talked about today, all of this needs to be put together before I can really make a good decision with investing.
Yeah, and it's fair. The thing too with debt is like as you relieve it, it literally has an emotional and freeing component to even how you live and operate. Debt is a burden.
It's something you can be proud of once you can actually get it tackled.
Yeah. So we talked about maximizing your income and growing your income. We talked about working on your budget to have more room and adjust it to be able to maximize growing your wealth through investing. Anything else to summarize or to add on those two kind of key structural things?
No, I think we've talked through it. So I think it'd be just great exercise for people to go through and evaluate these buckets and really figure out where they stand.
Well, this was an interesting conversation, a little bit of a departure from our normal focus on the market and stocks and companies. But I feel like it's critical to really be the best or a maximized investor for where you are. You got to work through some of these things. So thanks for sharing your experience in talking stocks and more.
That's right. And I hope if people learn something today that they like the video and subscribe to the channel because we have lots of videos that when you are ready to really get into maximizing investing, we have some really good videos that can help you out.
Well, thanks for talking stocks today, Alex.
We'll talk to you next time.
Ciao.